Now, good to be able to talk to you again. This is part of the reading and comprehension course, and it's the section on poetry. Now, there is a chapter in your book. It's allocated to how to read and understand poetry. Now, I'm going to give you here a procedure of how to make the best of the poems you read, okay? And I'm going to do this through an example to make things clear. Now, the procedure. You have a poem in front of you that you need to read and understand, okay? Now, what do you do? First, you read the title, if there is one, because some poems don't have titles, okay? You read the title and think about what the contents of the poem might be without reading further. Now, you read the title and you put away the poem and try to think and imagine what the poem might be. I mean, its contents, what might they be? Give yourself enough time. 2-3 minutes, I guess, would do. And then after this first step, you read the poem in its entirety. Now, read the entire poem without much fuss about the meaning of every single word. Don't worry about the meaning of every single word. Write the entire poem and try to get a general idea of what the poem is about. Now, don't worry a lot about the words that you don't understand. This will come later. Now, with these first impressions and expectations that you have in mind about the contents of the poem, go back to each stanza with a closer reading. Now, a stanza is a section in a poem. You already know that, I guess. It's like a paragraph in a text, okay? You go back to each single stanza with these general ideas that you forged in the beginning. Now, you ask yourself the question, what are the images and emotions in each stanza? Okay, because poetry is mostly images and emotions. Now, what are the images and emotions in each stanza? Find this by paying closer attention to word choice. You can find the emotions and the images by this time focusing on word choice. Which types of words are used? Do they belong to specific semantic fields? Do they have something in common? Okay. How do the images and emotions that you've found in each stanza work together to lead to one general image or emotion? Now, you do this to one stanza and the next stanza, and then you try to put them together to get an idea of the entire poem. Now, you ask yourself, step number 6, are there any aspects of beauty or truth in the poem? Because poetry is normally supposed to be beautiful. That's an artistic use of language. Now, ask yourself the question, are there any aspects of beauty? What's beautiful about this poem? Is it the use of the language? Is it the imagery? What? And also truth. Poetry is not just beautiful. It also conveys ideas and notions and understandings and, okay, conceptions. Now, ask yourself whether there is some sort of truth in the poem. And the last thing to do, you ask yourself, have I learned anything new from this poem? Because after all, we read and we study so as to learn. Now, ask yourself, have I learned anything new from the poem? Now, I'll go through these steps one by one by working on one poem, The Eagle. Now, the section that you have in your book contains 5 poems. Now, I'm going to cover with you The Eagle by Lord Tennyson, okay? And then you follow the same procedure at home with the rest of the poems, okay? Now, The Eagle. It's a very short poem, okay? Written about 150 years ago. Now, The Eagle, let me read it to you, because the sounds are also important in poetry. He clasps the crag with crooked hands, close to the sun in lonely lands, ringed with the azure world he stands. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls, he watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt he falls. Okay? Now you can pay attention, you can read it yourself and try to see whether there are sound patterns. Okay? Now this is a very short poem, okay? And you'll find out later that it's a very beautiful poem, okay? Now, we're going to analyze it. Now, as I told you, the first step, what was the first step again? Read the title, if there is one, and think about what the contents of the poem might be without reading further, okay? Now, the title is The Eagle. Now, the eagle, what does it convey? What are the different meanings that this title may convey? When we think about eagle, you know it, it's Nsr, okay? We think of power, we think of courage, of speed, beauty, danger, because it's also dangerous. We think of awe. Awe is an emotion which is a mixture of beauty and fear. When you see an eagle, large, strong, and beautiful. When something is at the same time beautiful and strong, you have this feeling of awe. And you have sight. Because eagles have very sharp eyesight and also oversight. Okay, when you look, okay, from a distance, when you have the ability to look from a very long distance, this is oversight. And they're mostly lonely. You very rarely find eagles in a group. Most of the time you find one or two eagles, okay? Now this is what we get just by looking at the title. And then step 2, you read the poem entirely without much fuss. Don't worry about single words, whether you know them or you don't know them. Now you ask yourself, any general idea? You read the poem very quickly and you try to get a general idea. Any general idea? Now if you think, well, there are in fact too many difficult words, I tell you, don't worry, okay? Now, this is an attempt at finding a general idea. An eagle in its natural environment. You can get this even if you don't know all the words. You have an eagle from the poem in its general environment, because you have crag, which is a cliff. You have mountain, you have a zoo world, we have the sea, and you have thunderbolts. All these are natural things or phenomena. The eagle is doing something or doing a number of things. Now, this is a general idea. You don't need to go into the details until, of course, you reach the second step. Now, steps 3 and 4, now you have this general idea in mind. Now you go to each stanza and look more closely. Now, in your close reading, use a good dictionary if you need one. Okay, because poetry helps us develop our vocabulary. So this is the time to use your dictionary. When I say a good dictionary, it's a dictionary that shows your pronunciation and a number of meanings and examples, okay? Now, if you go back to the poem again, you have he. Now, this is a personification. We are talking about a bird. Normally, a bird is it. But what the poet is using he, as if talking about a person, okay? This is a personification, okay? A personification. Clasps. To clasp is to hold very strongly, to hold something very strongly. Clasps means mastery and control. When you hold something tightly, firmly, closely, this means that you have mastery and control. The crag. A crag is a mountain cliff overlooking the sea, okay? Sometimes you have mountains, and then next to them you have the sea. That's what they call the crag or cliff. And crooked, okay? Crooked means force. Now, if you remember the English idiom by hook or by crook, meaning gently or by force, I'm going to take it by hook or by crook, okay? You say this, meaning gently by hook or by force by crook, okay? Force, hands, and we have hand also. Do birds have hands? No, they don't have hands. They have claws. And yet the poet is using hands. Now here we have again a personification and action, because hands means action, to do things. Now the other line, close to the sun in lonely lands. Okay? Close to the sun in lonely lands. Here, close to the sun, يعني very high. We have height and we have rule. If you are, okay, let's say in a position that allows you to overlook a large space, this means you are ruling, you have power and you have control. We may ask the question, why lonely lands? You may ask this question, why are there lonely lands? Now ringed. Ringed is from a ring. You know the little metal thing that people, do in their fingers? To wear a ring, to get married and so on, ringed. So here it's like a halo or crown, okay? Azure, this word can be read in 5 or 6 different ways. You can read it azure, azure, azure also, and that's the sky. Azure is the color of the sky when it's clear. Now ringed with the sky, okay? It's as if the sky is the crown, okay? The crown or the halo of this bird, which means it's like a king. This is an eagle wearing the sky as a crown, okay? Like a king on a high throne. You are perched, the bird is perched very high on the mountain, close to the sun, and ringed with the sky, okay? This is like a king sitting, okay, on a high throne. Now, the question about the image, is there imagery here? Are there emotions? We have indeed the image of a powerful king ready to act, okay? If you remember hand, a powerful king ready to act. Are there emotions? Yes, we have the emotion of awe. Now, the beauty and the power, okay? We have the beauty and the power. When you have both, this gives this emotion of awe, as I explained earlier. Now, the other stanza, the wrinkled sea, okay? The wrinkled sea. Wrinkled is a description of the skin of an old person, okay? When you become old, your skin is no more that soft, okay, skin, but it becomes wrinkled. It's like when you look at the sea, from a distance you see the waves as if they are wrinkles. They look like wrinkles, okay? They are the waves beneath. Now the eagle is above and the sea is beneath. This means that the eagle has this ruling posture, okay? Again, him, a personification of the eagle, and crawls, moves, okay? Crawls, moves. Now the other line, he again watches. Watches, okay? Watches means there is presence and there is also knowledge. If you are being watched, that means there is someone looking at you, okay? And they know what you're doing. So presence and knowledge. From his mountain walls. Again, personification, his, the bird, not its. His, this means possession. It's a possessive pronoun. Mountain walls, when we mention walls, okay, this means that this eagle here has a fortress actually. It's a castle, okay? It's a military base from where this eagle can launch, let's say, attacks. And like thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is when you have thunder and lightning at the same time. Thunder and lightning. Meaning dreadful, okay, and also very fast. And like a thunderbolt, thunderbolt means overwhelming and intimidating power of nature. When you have this thunderbolt, what do you do normally? You hide, because it's very powerful. Falls. When something falls like this, it's unavoidable. You cannot escape it. Okay? It's like destiny. Okay? Something befalls, okay, or something falls on you. It doesn't, you don't do it, it happens to you. So you have no power in the face of it. Now, do we have images here? Yes, there is the image of unleashing of unstoppable power. Now, first, if you remember, we had the image of a powerful king ready to act, and now we have this action. We have the unleashing, okay? To unleash is to free, okay? To make something free. The unleashing of unstoppable power, because you cannot stop this power, okay? And the emotion is helplessness, okay? There is nothing you can do to protect yourself against this, okay, immense power that is unleashing, okay, in front of you. I hope this is going to start making sense. And step 5, how do the images? Now we're going to synthesize. We're going to put the parts together, because we've been working on stanzas, okay, singly. Now we need to have the big picture. Now, how do the images and emotions in each stanza work together to lead to one general image or emotion? Because this is the aim of the poem. Now, we've seen that the first stanza paints an image of a powerful king ready to act. Okay? The second stanza takes us a step further and shows the power of the king acting, not just ready to act, but acting. Okay? Shows the power of the king unfolding and resulting, okay, let's say, from the perspective of the prey in a feeling of helplessness. Now, there is a very strong power in front of you. You are helpless. There is nothing you can do. You cannot defend yourself. Now, overall, the poem tends to convey the idea of the supremacy of natural forces. Now, this is more or less where the analysis has led us. The supremacy of natural forces and the impossibility of countering them. Now, the poem seems to say, as a general message, that nature is very powerful and there is nothing you can do against it. Okay? Nature is much stronger than you. Okay? You are weak and nature is very strong. There is nothing you can do to stop the force of nature. Now, step number 6. Are there any aspects of beauty and or truth in the poem? Now, the beauty of sound, okay, the beauty of imagery, and then something about truth. Now, the beauty of sound. We have a rhyming triplet. If you look at the poem again, you say hands, lands, and stands. This is musicality. And you have crawls, walls, and falls, okay? This is nice music repeated across the poem. And you have alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of the same sound at the beginning of words, not the end. It's the opposite of rhyme. You have clasps, crag, crooked. See clasps, this cur sounds at the beginning, clasps, crag, crooked. And we have lowly and lands. Conveys the sounds of rocks falling down a mountain. Now, if you have already experienced this, when you have rocks falling down a mountain, there is this terrible thundering sound, like a thunderbolt, actually, that's going to happen at the end of the poem. This is a relationship in terms of sound from between the beginning and the end of the poem. And the beauty of imagery, now we have the eagle, the mountain, the sky, the sea, are all put together in one harmonious and dynamic picture. You can mention them in your poem, but the way they are put together in this poem is very nice. It's harmonious, okay? There is a harmony in the general picture, where the eagle is king, the sky is the crown, the mountains, the castle walls, and the sea is the hunting ground of the eagle. Now, this is really a very beautiful way to put these images together in one big, beautiful image. And the truth. Is there any truth in the poem? Does it convey something, some knowledge apart from the beauty? Now we can ask, to what extent does the idea of overwhelming natural forces account for human power? Now, if we accept the idea that nature forces are very powerful and very strong. Where is human power? Does this mean that we have to just sit there and wait for nature to do things to us? Where is human power? Okay? Or is there a more balanced relationship? Are we here at the mercy of nature? Or do humans have their own share of power? Isn't there a balance between natural power and human power? This is a question to ask. Now, another question, does the poem, or is the poem a reflection of the poet's celebration of nature? Now, should we understand that the poet celebrates nature as something very powerful, or is it rather a decrying of the weakness of man? When you celebrate nature this way, when you describe that it's very powerful, are you talking about the power of nature, or are you talking about the weakness of humanity? Okay? So these are things to keep in mind. Now, and the last thing, the last question that you need to ask you when dealing with poetry, have I learned anything new from the poem? Has this poem taught me anything? Now, this is you, the student, and this is the book. Did anything go from the book to your head? Did you understand anything? Did you learn anything new? That's it. And thank you for your attention. I hope you'll enjoy the other poems and use this procedure with other poems. I personally think that it's very useful. Thank you.